Eudora Welty's The Optimist's Daughter was published in 1972. As the novel opens, Laurel McElwahan leaves Chicago and goes to New Orleans, where her father, Judge McElwa, is seeing an eye specialist to find out why his sight is failing. Laurel meets his father's young new wife, a selfish, disrespectful woman named Wanda Fay. The doctor tells Judge that he has a detached retina and that it must be operated at once. After the operation, the eye seems to be recovering normally, but Judge's health is not bearing the rigors of surgery well. He is lethargic and his health declines. Laurel and Fay, along with another woman, watch Judge to assure that he does not move very much, which would jeopardize the recovery of his eye. Laurel and Fay have adjoining rooms at a nearby hotel, but Laurel fails in her attempts to get to know Fay. Meanwhile, Judge is now sharing a hospital room with a man whose senility makes him speak and behave strangely. The man's loud, colorful family is always in the waiting room. At one point, Faye decides to try to scare Judge back to vitality by shaking him, but he dies soon after this incident. Welty is never clear about whether or not Faye's action caused the death. The next day, Laurel and Faye board a train to Mount Salus, Mississippi, the McElwa's hometown. Laurel and Faye arrive in Mount Solace, and Judge's coffin is taken off the train and loaded into a waiting hearse. Many of Laurel's old friends are waiting for her at the station. They go back to the house where a few people are waiting. The next day, many neighbors and friends stop by the house to view Judge's body, to bring food for the family, and to socialize. Faye's family, the Kissams, have been invited to Madrid, Texas, and their arrival creates quite a stir among the gentile Southerners. The Kissams are crude and loud and have no sense of decorum. When Faye finally emerges from her room, she screams and wails and throws herself on Judge's body before being dragged away. Next, the mourners go to the church for the funeral, where the public turnout is impressive, and then go to the cemetery for the burial. When Laurel and Faye return home, there are a few lingering friends. Faye decides to return to Madrid with her family for a few days' visit and is happy to hear that Laurel will be gone in 3 days. Neither wants to run into the other, as they have found it impossible to get along. The next day, Laurel works in the garden while four elderly neighbor women sit and gossip about Faye. When Laurel goes inside, she walks through her father's library, taking in all the memories inspired by the books, furniture, and general clutter. Later, she meets some friends to reminisce about the days before Laurel moved to Chicago. When she gets back to the house, Laurel finds that a bird has gotten inside, and she tries to trap it in a single room. She allows herself to think about how much she blames Faye for her father's death, which makes her long to be with her deceased mother. Laurel goes into a sewing room, which was once her nursery. She finds her mother's small desk filled with papers, photographs, and letters. A flood of memories washes over her, including the details of her mother's background in West Virginia, their relationship, and her mother's steady decline and death. Her sorrow leads her to remember her husband Phil, who died in World War II. She imagines that they would have enjoyed the kind of happy marriage her parents had if only his life had not been cut short. The next morning, with the help of Missouri, an African American woman who has worked as a cook for McElwa's since Laurel's childhood, Laurel manages to get the trapped bird out of the house. She packs her suitcase in preparation for a ride to the airport. When she goes into the kitchen, more memories come to her, and she finds her mother's breadboard that Phil had made for her. At the same time, Faye returns home and is irate that Laurel is still there. They argue about the breadboard and then about the importance of the past, and Laurel comes close to striking Faye with the breadboard. She stops herself and decides not to take the breadboard with her because she has come to understand that freedom is more powerful than memories. The knowledge she has gained about herself over the last few days has liberated her from the pain, despair, and a sense of obligation she once felt. Laurel hears her ride honk for her outside, and she hugs Missouri on her way out the door. As she rides out of town on her way to the airport, she waves back at the many people who are waving to her.